Let's bring this gentleman on, please, right now, because I have about 400 questions to ask him. That's the host of the NFL Matchup Show on ESPN and a game analyst for the network and, of course, a national correspondent. And that would be Sal Paolantonio. Sal, how are you, pal?
Oh, Pat, can you believe it? If you had Commanders at Eagles in the NFC Championship, raise your hand. And I'm putting my hand down because I definitely did not have the Commanders at the Eagles. So there's only one other time in Super Bowl history that a road team in 3 straight road games in the playoffs, road dog, won all 3, went to the Super Bowl and won it. And that was the 2008 New York Giants.
Right.
So it was in this division.
Yep.
And, that suggests battle-tested.
Yeah.
And the Commanders are a battle-tested football team.
All right. Now, give yourself some props now. You mentioned last week you thought the 9.5 was way too much, and you thought that the Commanders could be a problem for Detroit. Boy, were you right. You right. So let's take a look at all 4 of those games from last weekend. Sal, we'll start with that one. Washington goes in and just offensively blitzes the Detroit Lions. Now, did the Lions' cumulative defensive injuries finally catch up to them? Or is just Washington playing downhill football right now?
I think it's a little of both, but I'm going to go mostly downhill football. So the numbers are unbelievable for Jaden Daniels. I'm going to read you the numbers, especially in the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter or overtime in December or January, Jaden Daniels, 6 touchdown passes, only 1 interception. Completion percentage of 70%. It's 69.9. We're going to round up. Rushing yards, 75 per game. Now, this is per game. And total QBR of 92. Commanders are 7-0 in December or January. I mentioned a couple of weeks on your show, Pat, that he's so tough in the fourth quarter because he's just faster, stronger, younger than a lot of teams now that have played a full season. And as a dual threat quarterback, he is so dangerous. He creates so much conflict. And so that's my answer to you. And we will get into this matchup and why that's so important later in the show.
Right.
And I'm just going to tease people and say Jalen Hurts is not on the spot in this game. Vic Fangio is on the spot in this game.
Okay. All right. Very good. Very good. We'll do that in detail after the break. Sal, one other thing about that game, just real quick. Am I right? Jared Goff will win you a game if you're a really good team. Jared Goff is not going to win a game by himself. True or false?
Well, I think it's mostly true, Pat. Listen, he's had a superb season.
Right.
And there's no way that he should have lost the game. But Aaron Glenn's defense fell apart.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah.
It fell apart, Pat. He dropped the rookie quarterback, 9-point dog on the road, dropped 45 on him. Pat,
I know. I know, Sal. I know.
Not even the top 10 problem.
Yep. All right, fair enough. The Lions, though, very, very, I'm sure they're just absolutely disconsolate right now. They thought this was going to be their run. But I tell you, that window closes fast. As you pointed out to me, they're going to lose both coordinators. They've already lost one. And they're going to lose the other one. And
Aaron Glenn is hired by the Jets, so he
was hired. Okay, so there you go. So now they're starting all over again with nomenclature and terminology, and we'll see. We'll see for the Lions. Okay, Kansas City Saturday afternoon defeats Houston. Now, about a month or so in this program, you espoused the presence in the NFL of the Jordan rules. Now, there were 2 plays in that game, Sal, that the whole nation talked about, led to 10 Kansas City points. Just tell me. Kansas City was better than you. I mean, they're a better team than Houston. But how difficult is it to go into Arrowhead and win a playoff game?
I've been there many times in the playoffs. Only guy I ever saw go in there and do it was Joe Burrow.
Right.
So that's it. I mean, Brady, of course, in his prime. But in this iteration of the Chiefs, only Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
And that's only because Patrick Mahomes turned the football over. Yeah. So it's very tough to do. I don't believe Buffalo can do it until they do it.
Right.
That's my golden rule. You got to show me first before I'm going to pick you. So I'm picking the Chiefs to win the game. I'd like to see Buffalo win just to change things up.
Right.
Man, oh man. New Orleans, Bills Mafia, Philadelphia Eagles, Green Nation.
Oh, I know that could be, that's a little combustible. But
you need the Volstead Act, Pat. You'd have to pass it all over again.
The Volstead Act. Oh, man. Very good. Those of you in the chat, I want somebody to tell me what the Volstead Act was. See how fast you can come up with it. Sal, the last 11 years, the Chiefs are 132-48 in the regular season. They're 17-6 the postseason. It is just so daunting. With those kind of numbers, it can't all be officiating. But, man, that's deflating to see those two calls happen. All right, Sal, the two other games. Baltimore goes into Buffalo. That was a heavyweight fight. It was. But my take, you can't turn the ball over 3 times and win the game. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Postseason football. I'll say it once more with feeling on This Week in Pro Football. For everybody who's watching this show, it will sound like a broken record because I've said it before. But for those of you just watching for the first time, 3 things. 1, you can't turn the ball over. 2, rushing attempts. Derrick Henry had 16 rushing attempts on the road in Buffalo. What?
Yeah.
He should have had 36 rushing attempts.
You're right. That's why they got it.
And then points allowed in the fourth quarter. Those are the 3 determining factors of whether you win and lose.
Right.
And Baltimore violated all of them.
Yeah. Yep. I feel bad for the Ravens. I mean, they played well enough, but you can't do it. You just can't drop the ball. You can't fumble the ball. You can't throw indiscriminate picks like Lamar did. And there you have it. All right, let's take a few minutes, though, Sal, about this game in Philadelphia last Sunday. Now, my take, Sal, is the same as the Ravens. You can't allow 3 touchdowns of 40-plus yards, commit 2 turnovers, allow 5 sacks, and shockingly, they were 20 yards away, the Rams were, from winning the game. But I think that the right team won the game. What do you think?
Oh, the right team won the game, for sure. The running back fumbles were just an absolute killer. Again, turnovers, rushing attempts. You put that much on your quarterback, and Stafford played his, and I say this on this program, but I'm going to say butt. He played his butt off. I don't mean butt. You know what I mean.
Yep.
I was on that field for most of the fourth and most of the end of the fourth quarter. Matthew Stafford looked down the middle of the gun barrel and never flinched. That was a superb performance. It really was. Sean McVay, I saw him post-game press conference. I know Sean looking right at me. His face was red. It looked like he was crying. Yeah. He said, I thought we had them. I thought we were going away 29-28.
Yeah. That's
but,
funny. Yeah.
Pat, you gotta block Jalen Carter, Pat.
Well, we have talked about that, you and me, all season long. I mean, Bo Limmer, the center of the Rams, makes a critical mistake, but this guy is a force of nature. He is.
You got to double team him. You can't single him up because he will kill you.
And it was on 4th down too. It was him who forced the errant throw by Stafford on 4th down. He is an absolute force of nature. And I want to talk. You mentioned after the break. I do want to bring this up though about Vic Fangio because Stafford had 14 completions in the first 56 minutes of that game. He had 12 in the last 4. So I want to ask you about that, whether Stafford just all of a sudden went into a phone booth and changed or whether something else changed. We'll do that after the break too. All right, when we get back with Sal Powell, we're going to talk about Eagles Commanders, why Sal has the stats to tell you passing is overrated as we compare Hurts and Jaden Daniels. And we'll also take a peek at Kansas City and Buffalo. All of that to come here on This Week in Pro Football, presented by Kennedy Auto. All right, welcome back here This Week in Pro Football. Pat Callahan with the excellent Sal Paolantonio joining me. Vince G, you were right on the chat. The Volstead Act created prohibition. And it didn't last, thankfully, Sal, it didn't last that long. But it created an entire industry of its own, like most acts do when Congress passes them. All right, Sal, you were kind enough to send me some notes, including some talking about the startling dichotomy of the better quarterbacks last weekend in terms of passing yards are now fitting out their golf bags versus those who did not pass the ball or did not accumulate much passing yards. Why don't you talk about that for a minute?
Well, Pat, passing yards are overrated, especially in the postseason. I didn't mention them in my top 3 of how you win postseason games. So you look at Jalen Hurts. He hasn't thrown an interception and has 10 touchdowns and a passer rating of 102.3 in his last 5 playoff games.
Right.
That would be a great trivia question because I don't think anybody would really know that number. Let me repeat it. No interceptions, 10 touchdowns, 102.3 passer rating, last 5 playoff games. That's how you win playoff games. So when Sirianni gets up there and say Jalen Hurts is a winner, that's what he's talking about. And you look last week, the 4 quarterbacks who are now in championship games, playing on championship Sunday. Josh Allen, 147 total yards.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, 191.
Right.
Jalen Hurts, 198. Yeah. The only guy who's the outlier is Daniels because he was in a shootout with Jared Goff.
Correct. Yep. And then on the flip side, Lamar, 293 yards, a loss. Matt Stafford, 329, a loss. Jared Goff, 320, and a loss. So you certainly make a substantial point. Now, let me be the contrarian. I know it's not like me, but let me just throw this out because I want your opinion on Hurts. You have been saying all season long that he is holding the ball too long. Now, the Rams had 7 sacks Sunday, and the average length of time that it's taken him to get rid of that ball Sunday was well over 3 seconds. I'm talking about on the sacks itself. What do you see in terms of that? Were the Rams just that good in coverage, or is Hurts reluctant to find that dump-off play and get rid of the ball?
Well, there's 3 things at play here, Pat. Number one, most important, the Rams' defensive line, I think, surprised the Eagles' offensive line and how good they were. They were getting early penetration, and that made Jalen Hurts a little skittish in the pocket. Number 2, he didn't see open receivers. There was receivers open all day long. Take, for instance, the sack for the safety.
Right.
He had an open receiver on his left. Now,
right.
Maybe he didn't want to throw it because he was concerned about a pick 6. That's possible. And I think that's the number 3 reason. He's not thrown an interception. He's holding on to the ball because he doesn't want to give it away. But sacks are almost as bad as a turnover in many cases, especially when you give the team 2 points on a safety. So they're working on it. I know that they are. I talk to people around the team who say the Eagles are working on it. They're working on it. They're working on it. They're trying to get him to do better. With the brace on the left knee, he was limited participant in the walkthrough today. The question is, what can they do with him? Can they get him outside the pocket? I don't know. Can they do some reverses? Can they do some no wide receiver screens, but running back screens to Barkley? Can they do some of that? Some quick hitters so that he can get the ball out of his hands. And more of those slant routes. He loves those slant routes to A.J. Brown. Do more of that. Right. Some jet sweeps, some reverses, some pitches. Anything to get the ball out of his hands like that. Quick, get the ball out.
Sal, pal, A.J. Brown so far the postseason, 3 for 24. No touchdowns. Now, I mean, can we lay any of this at the feet of number 11? Or do you think it's all circumstantial?
That's a loaded question, Pat. I don't think it's circumstantial, for sure not.
Yeah.
I mean, they're paying him what, $90 million?
Oh yeah, and he's a big guy, and Sal, by physical definition, I'd have to think he gets open on those slants. And it just seems like there's just a total lack of communication or confidence between Hurts and A.J. Brown.
I think you answered your question right there, Pat. No question about it. I mean, they don't have to be more productive. They do have to be as careful, but they can't be as careless as they have been. They almost gave the game away to the Rams last week because of their carelessness. Missed extra points. Safety on a sack.
Safety, right?
Yep. A lot of different carelessness that they can't afford to do. This quarterback coming in here is super hot. And the last time they played, and the reason why I say it's more on Fangio than Hurts. So the Eagles are up 27-14 on December 22nd.
Right.
Daniels had 3 touchdown passes in the fourth quarter. Fangio's defense allowed him to get back in the game. Now, people are going to argue, Sal, and people are probably in the chat room right now. We didn't have C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He got ejected. You're telling me one player is the difference between no touchdown passes and 3? Whatever you're paying C.J. Gardner-Johnson, you need to triple it tomorrow if he's that important to your football team.
Right.
I'm just saying.
It's fair to say.
So we saw Aaron Glenn get boat raced by Jaden Daniels, and I sent you those numbers with Jaden Daniels. The Washington Commanders never punt.
Yeah.
They punted the 4th fewest time in the NFL because you can't get the kid off the field.
I know. Tremendous confidence in him. You're right. Because they go for it on 4th down. They're just like the Lions, but they don't have a lumbering, Jared Goff back there. They got this kid who's really something special.
So there's 2 aspects of this matchup that are very important for people to watch that nobody is talking about right now. Nobody. So let's talk about them on this show. 1, what is the spy operation going to be like against Jaden Daniels? Nakobe Dean's gone. Is it C.J. Gardner-Johnson? Quinyon Mitchell is hurt. How effective is he going to be one-on-one against Terry McLaurin? So that means you're going to have C.J. Gardner-Johnson preoccupied with McLaurin getting deep or Zach Ertz underneath.
Right.
So who is spying Daniels and how? That is absolutely important. And then on the flip side, with Washington's right guard, Sam Cosmi, out with a knee injury.
Right.
He's their best offensive lineman. Who's blocking Jalen Carter in this game?
Yeah.
How are you stopping Jalen Carter? Jalen Carter, in my opinion, and I said this to you in an email this morning. I don't know, it was like 4 a.m. I was up thinking about this game.
I know.
That Jalen Carter is the best player on all 4 teams right now. It's not even close, in my opinion. It's Carter and Daniels is 1-2.
Yeah. He's going to remind. I know it's way too soon. I know, but it's my show. I could do it. This guy reminds me of Aaron Donald. You know what I mean? He's got that attitude, and he's got tremendous agility for a guy that big. And I just think there's a couple of years from now, this guy, if he applies himself, he could be an absolute monster in this league. Now, I want to ask you. You mentioned about Fangio. Fangio, 0 Super Bowl rings, right?
I believe that. I got double check that. I don't know if he has one or not.
Yeah, but let me go back to my Stafford statistic.
No, it is official. He has no Super Bowl rings. According to ESPN stats, he was the 49ers defensive coordinator when they lost to the Ravens.
Right.
He was in that Super Bowl, but he's no Super Bowl rings. Sal,
when I mentioned about Stafford, how in the last 5 minutes of the game, he went berserk. And boy, he was impressive. You were right. And Matt Stafford, it's a shame as a Ram fan, I don't know where they were the first 55 minutes, but he was really impressive in those last 5. Now, it had to be because the Eagles did something different. Now you've got a kid coming in here who absolutely flourishes in the 4th quarter. So will you see, would Fangio, is he going to change anything defensively aside from the spy that you talked about? You don't need to spy Matt Stafford. But you might have to certainly spy this kid. But does Fangio did he actually go to a prevent? And would he do that again against Jaden Daniels?
He has no choice. He can't blitz Jaden Daniels. Who is going to blitz him?
Yeah.
Daniels beats the blitz like he's eating an ice cream cone.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair enough.
Yeah. He's faster than everybody else on the field.
Right.
So you can't blitz him. You have to play coverage.
Yeah.
And if the coverage breaks down, he goes, and he's not looking for home runs. He's looking for moving the chains. He's such a smart runner.
Yeah. McLaurin has flourished with him. Zach Ertz has been reborn with him, after some moribund years in Arizona. And even Alamade Zaccheaus playing very well. It's going to be tough.
The quarterback will be protected in this game. Sean Hockley is the referee.
Yeah.
He threw the 3rd most roughing the passer penalties in the league this year.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank God he's not doing the Chiefs game. That's a case out. God almighty.
And Sirianni is 5-0 with Sean Hockley.
I know. I see that. I wasn't that surprised. This guy's got a winning record. He's got to have a winning record with every official in the NFL, Sal. But Sirianni.
I think.
Yeah. Sal, let's just say we have a couple minutes left here. I just want to get your take. You've already mentioned it, but I just if you would just flush it out a little bit. Kansas City hosting Buffalo. I said at the start of the season, the Bills window is closing only because, this kid is he's miraculous. I'm talking about Josh Allen now, but sooner or later, somebody's going to pop him. Something's going to go wrong. He never misses any games. But do the Bills did they surround him with enough going into this championship game to go in there and take that Lamar Hunt trophy away from the Chiefs?
Well, he doesn't have Chris Jones, and he doesn't have Travis Kelce, and he doesn't have Xavier Worthy.
Right.
And to me, the combination of those three plus that quarterback and the genius of Steve Spagnuolo to dial up blitzes on third down and get to the quarterback is, I think, going to be too much. I would love to see a Bills-Eagles Super Bowl. I would love it. I don't think anybody in America, really, or few people outside of the Kansas City area wants to see a repeat of the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I think it'll probably be the most watched game in the history of American television on Sunday night, especially if the game is close in the fourth quarter. So if Josh Allen doesn't turn the ball over, they got a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned about the Chiefs. I wrote this down. The average NFL football fan, and let's face it, Sal, the Chiefs are on almost every single week. The Chiefs are in some sort of a primetime game. How many NFL fans could name someone besides Mahomes, Kelce, and Chris Jones that even play, you know what I mean, that plays for the Chiefs? Their defense, aside from Jones, is virtually anonymous. And yet he gets the very best out of them. And obviously, Andy Reid is unparalleled in his ability to get the most out of his offense. It's a tough call. I know. Tough task for the Bills.
The Jets hired Aaron Glenn, who just literally got boat raced by Jaden Daniels and didn't even interview Steve Spagnuolo, I don't think. How do you do that? How's that possible?
Yeah, I know. Isn't that a shame? That's
All
a shame.
you got to do is drive, a few miles east where he coached for the Giants and go look at those Super Bowl trophies that are there because he coached there.
That's a shame. Spagnuolo got ruined by his time with the Rams. That franchise was a mess when he was there. And it's a shame that he got tarred with that.
I would like to see him get a head coaching job again.
All right. So, Sal, I know you'd like to see Philadelphia, Buffalo, but you're calling basically now a replay of Philadelphia, Kansas City 2 weeks hence. Is that right?
Pat, that's my pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, I'm not giving 6 points on Sunday in Lincoln Financial Field.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah, both spreads are about 6, and both are about – no, the Chiefs – I'm sorry.
Chiefs are -2. The Eagles are -6.
Right. Both over-unders are 47 on ESPN Bet. But I hope you're right. I'd love to see Philadelphia Buffalo. I think that would be an outstanding Super Bowl.
Don't forget to watch Championship Sunday NFL Matchup Show on ESPN2 and ESPN on Saturday and Sunday.
All right.
And we will have a lot about Eagles and Commanders. And this Jaden Daniels, we will show you how he is just a total difference maker. And, Pat, we will talk next week, Pat.
All right. And you'll be at Lincoln. Obviously, you'll be at Lincoln Financial Sunday. People can find you there pregame, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Sal, thanks very much for all the time, pal. It was terrific. And look forward to talking to you for our post-conference championship edition next week. All right. All right. The great Sal Paolantonio joining me there. Always great to have Sal on. All right. We get back. This gentleman will join me. I saw him jumping around when the Eagles beat the Rams last week, so I'm going to do nothing but scream at him for the next 13 minutes. That's Sean Green from the Sports Gambling Podcast. We'll do that next on This Week in Pro Football.